Michael Hastings, a charismatic 45-year-old real estate developer, and his wife, Olivia, 42-year-old museum curator, were the epitome of success and refinement. Their sprawling 6-bedroom home in Pacific Heights, San Francisco, with its manicured gardens and luxury vehicles parked in the driveway, was the envy of their neighbors. For 15 years, the Hastings had been pillars of their community. They hosted lavish parties, donated generously to local charities, and were active members of the country club. Their 2 children, Emma and Henry, excelled in their private school and extracurricular activities. To the outside world, the Hastings appeared to be living the American dream. But beneath the veneer of perfection, a storm was brewing. In the spring of 2023, the facade began to crumble, revealing a tale of betrayal, illness, and revenge that would shock the community to its core. Michael and Olivia's love story began in the fall of 2003 at the University of California, Berkeley. Michael, a senior majoring in business administration, first spotted Olivia at a campus art exhibition. She was a junior studying art history, her eyes sparkling with passion as she explained the nuances of a particularly striking abstract piece to a group of captivated listeners. Intrigued by her intelligence and beauty, Michael approached her after the crowd dispersed. He introduced himself, fumbling slightly over his words. Olivia was charmed by his genuine interest in her work and his quick wit. They spent hours talking that night, losing track of time as they discovered their shared love of travel, fine cuisine, and classic literature. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic gestures and intellectual discussions. Michael wooed Olivia with surprise picnics in the university's botanical gardens, late-night study sessions that turned into deep conversations about their hopes and dreams, and weekend trips to explore the vibrant art scene in San Francisco. After graduation, Michael landed a coveted position at a prestigious real estate development firm, while Olivia pursued her master's degree in art curation. Despite their busy schedules, their relationship flourished. They supported each other's ambitions, celebrating every milestone and comforting each other through setbacks. In the spring of 2008, Michael proposed to Olivia at the top of the Golden Gate Bridge at sunset. He had arranged for a private dinner in a secluded spot overlooking the bay, surrounded by the twinkling lights of the city they both loved. Overwhelmed with emotion, Olivia said yes without hesitation. Their wedding, held the following year at the San Francisco Botanical Garden, was a lavish affair that blended Michael's taste for luxury with Olivia's artistic flair. Friends and family gathered for their union, many commenting on how perfectly matched the couple seemed. The early years of their marriage were filled with joy and ambition. They worked hard, saving money and building their careers. Michael climbed the corporate ladder with determination, while Olivia made a name for herself in the competitive art world. In 2011, they welcomed their daughter, Emma, followed 2 years later by their son, Henry. Parenthood brought new challenges, but also deepened their bond. They tackled sleepless nights and diaper changes as a team, their love growing stronger with each passing day. To all who knew them, Michael and Olivia Hastings were the perfect couple, destined for a lifetime of happiness together. As the years passed and the Hastings' success grew, subtle changes began to appear in their relationship. The first cracks in their seemingly perfect life emerged around 2018, coinciding with a significant promotion for Michael. His new role as vice president at his firm came with a substantial pay increase, but also demanded more of his time and attention. Olivia, who had scaled back her work at the museum to focus on raising their children, found herself increasingly alone. The intimate dinners and weekend getaways that had once been a staple of their relationship became rare occurrences. Michael was often absent, citing late nights at the office and frequent business trips. At first, Olivia tried to be understanding. She threw herself into volunteer work and focused on the children's activities, telling herself that Michael's dedication to his career was for the benefit of their family. However, as months turned into years, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally changed between them. Friends began to notice the strain at social gatherings. Michael and Olivia no longer gravitated toward each other as they once had. Their playful banter was replaced by polite, almost formal interactions. Olivia's smile, once radiant in her husband's presence, now seemed forced and brittle. Olivia tried to bridge the gap, planning romantic evenings and family outings, but Michael always seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere. When she expressed her concerns, he dismissed them, assuring her that everything was fine and that he was just under a lot of pressure at work. As 2022 drew to a close, Olivia couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in her gut any longer. Something was wrong, and it went beyond the normal stresses of a busy life. Little did she know, the true extent of the trouble in her marriage was about to reveal itself in the most devastating way possible. The seeds of destruction for the Hastings marriage were sown on a crisp autumn evening in September 2022. Michael was attending a charity gala at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, an event his wife would normally have accompanied him to. However, Olivia had stayed home with a sick Henry, leaving Michael to represent the family alone. It was there that he first laid eyes on Isabella DeLuca, a 32-year-old up-and-coming financial analyst who had recently transferred to the office of a rival firm. Isabella was everything Olivia was not: young, ambitious, and unencumbered by family responsibilities. Her sleek black gown and confident demeanor caught Michael's attention immediately. They were seated at the same table for dinner, and as the evening progressed, Michael found himself captivated by Isabella's sharp wit and intimate knowledge of the financial world. They talked for hours, their conversation flowing effortlessly from market trends to personal anecdotes. For the first time in years, Michael felt a spark of excitement, a reminder of the passion he had once felt in his younger days. As the gala wound down, they exchanged business cards, both lingering a moment too long as their fingers brushed. Michael told himself it was purely professional interest, but the thought of Isabella lingered in his mind long after he returned home that night. Over the next few weeks, Michael and Isabella began to meet regularly under the guise of networking and potential collaboration between their firms. Coffee meetings turned into working lunches, which evolved into after-work drinks. Each time, Michael found himself sharing more personal details, confiding in Isabella about his frustrations at home and the pressures of his job. Isabella, for her part, was drawn to Michael's power and success. She saw in him a potential mentor and perhaps something more. She listened to his troubles with sympathy, offering understanding and support that Michael felt had been missing from his life. The line between professional and personal blurred rapidly. A late-night strategy session at Isabella's apartment became the catalyst for their first kiss. Overwhelmed by desire and the thrill of the forbidden, Michael crossed a line he had never thought himself capable of crossing. As he drove home that night, guilt warred with exhilaration in his mind. He told himself it was a one-time mistake, that he would end it immediately. But as the days passed, he found himself unable to stay away from Isabella. What had started as a chance encounter quickly developed into a full-blown affair, one that would have catastrophic consequences for everyone involved. In January 2023, while Michael was deepening his involvement with Isabella, Olivia received news that would shake the very foundation of her world. What she had initially dismissed as fatigue and stress-related symptoms turned out to be something far more sinister. After a series of tests and a biopsy, Olivia was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The day she received the diagnosis, Olivia sat alone in the sterile exam room, her mind reeling as the oncologist gently explained the treatment plan. She felt numb, barely registering the doctor's words about chemotherapy, radiation, and survival rates. In that moment, all she wanted was her husband by her side. But Michael was unreachable, his phone going straight to voicemail. When she finally broke the news to Michael that evening, his reaction was a mixture of shock and what Olivia perceived as detachment. He held her as she cried, murmuring words of comfort, but she couldn't shake the feeling that his mind was elsewhere. She attributed his distance to the stress of processing the diagnosis, never suspecting the true reason for his distraction. The following weeks were a whirlwind of appointments and decisions. Olivia threw herself into researching treatment options and support groups, determined to face her battle with courage. Michael accompanied her to doctor's visits and helped arrange for additional help with the children. But there was a palpable tension between them. Internally, Michael was racked with guilt. The timing of Olivia's illness couldn't have been worse, coming just as his affair with Isabella was intensifying. He found himself torn between his duty to his wife and his growing feelings for his mistress. The stress of maintaining his double life while supporting Olivia through her illness began to take its toll. As Olivia prepared to begin her first round of chemotherapy, she reached out to Michael for emotional support, hoping to reconnect with her husband in the face of this life-altering challenge. But the man she had once considered her rock now seemed distant and unreachable. Little did she know the worst of his betrayal was yet to come. As winter melted into spring, Michael Hastings found himself living two entirely separate lives. By day, he was the supportive husband, accompanying Olivia to chemotherapy sessions, managing the household, and maintaining a facade of normalcy for their children. By night, he was Isabella's passionate lover, escaping into a world of excitement and freedom from the burdens of his family life. The guilt of his infidelity, compounded by Olivia's illness, ate away at Michael. He threw himself into his work with renewed vigor, using it as an excuse to create distance from both women. Late nights at the office became his refuge, a neutral space where he could avoid confronting the reality of his choices. Olivia, weakened by her treatments and focused on her recovery, initially attributed Michael's absences to the demands of his job and the stress of her illness. He leaned heavily on her sister, Rachel, and a close-knit group of friends who rallied around her during this difficult time. They provided the emotional support that seemed to be lacking from her husband, though none of them dared to voice their concerns about Michael's behavior. Meanwhile, Isabella grew increasingly impatient with the limitations of their relationship. She pressed Michael for more of his time and attention, hinting at a future together. Michael, unable to fully commit, but unwilling to let her go, placated her with promises of a vacation together once things settled down at home. As Olivia's treatment progressed, the strain began to show on the entire family. Emma, now 12, became withdrawn and sullen, struggling to cope with her mother's illness and her father's constant absences. 9-year-old Henry developed anxiety, clinging to Olivia and dissolving into tears at the slightest provocation. The once happy home became a place of tension and unspoken resentments. Friends and neighbors began to notice the change in the Hastings family dynamic. Whispers circulated at school pickups and neighborhood barbecues. Some speculated about the toll of Olivia's illness, while others wondered if there was trouble in the marriage. Michael's colleague, Dominic Fitzgerald, had seen him with Isabella at a restaurant across town, but kept his suspicions to himself, unwilling to add to the family's troubles. As summer approached, Michael found himself walking an increasingly precarious tightrope. His performance at work, at home, and with Isabella was beginning to slip. He was irritable, distracted, and prone to mood swings. Olivia, despite her weakened state, sensed that something was deeply wrong, but lacked the energy to confront him directly. The breaking point was approaching, and it would come in a way that none of them could have anticipated. Hey crime case solvers! Interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and if you have any thoughts about this case, or have a case of your own you would like us to investigate, leave us a comment. Stay safe, crime case solvers. As Michael planned his getaway with Isabella, he had no idea that his carefully constructed house of cards was about to come crashing down around him. As July 2023 arrived, bringing with it a heatwave that blanketed San Francisco in sweltering temperatures, Michael Hastings made a decision that would irreversibly alter the course of his life and the lives of those around him. With Olivia's chemotherapy scheduled to continue throughout the summer, Michael announced that he needed to take a business trip, close an important deal in the Cayman Islands. Olivia, pale and exhausted from her most recent round of treatment, nodded weakly at the news. She was too drained to question the timing or the necessity of the trip, simply asking him to call regularly to check on her and the children. Michael felt a pang of guilt as he looked at his wife. The guilt wasn't enough to deter him from his plans. In reality, there was no business deal. Michael had arranged a week-long romantic getaway with Isabella, using his connections to book a luxurious private villa on a secluded beach. As he packed his bags, hiding gifts for Isabella among his clothes, he rationalized his actions. He told himself that he deserved this break, that the stress of the past months entitled him to some happiness. The moment Michael and Isabella arrived at their tropical paradise, they threw caution to the wind. They spent their days lounging on the beach, sipping cocktails, and indulging in expensive meals. Their nights were filled with passion, both of them reveling in the freedom to be together openly. Michael pushed thoughts of Olivia and his children to the back of his mind, fully immersing himself in the fantasy of a life with Isabella. Back in San Francisco, Olivia's condition took a turn for the worse. The side effects of her latest treatment hit her hard, leaving her bedridden and feverish. Rachel moved in temporarily to help with the children, and Olivia's care, growing increasingly frustrated with her brother-in-law's absence. She tried repeatedly to reach Michael, but his phone went unanswered. It was Emma who unwittingly set in motion the events that would expose Michael's betrayal. Worried about her mother and angry at her father's absence, she decided to use the emergency credit card Michael had given her to order flowers for Olivia. When the card was declined, she called the customer service number, posing as Olivia to inquire about recent transactions. The customer service representative, fooled by Emma's act, revealed a list of charges from the Cayman Islands: luxury restaurants, high-end boutiques, and a jewelry store. Emma, confused and upset, shared this information with her aunt Rachel. Rachel, her suspicions finally confirmed, decided it was time to take action. She hired a private investigator who quickly uncovered the truth about Michael's business trip and his ongoing affair with Isabella. Armed with this information and evidence, Rachel sat down with Olivia to reveal the extent of her husband's betrayal. With gentle words, but unflinching honesty, she shared the evidence gathered by the private investigator. Photos of Michael and Isabella together in the Cayman Islands, records of extravagant purchases, and time-stamped footage of them entering and leaving their villa. Olivia listened in stunned silence, her fingers clutching the arm of her chair so tightly that her knuckles turned white. As the full picture of Michael's duplicity emerged, a myriad of emotions washed over her. Shock, anger, humiliation, and finally, a steely resolve. When Rachel finished speaking, Olivia remained quiet for a long moment. Then, with a voice steadier than she felt, she asked, "What do we do now?" Rachel, relieved that her sister's response wasn't one of despair, replied, "Whatever you want to do, I'm here for you, no matter what." It was at that moment, with her sister's unwavering support and the harsh truth laid bare before her, that Olivia began to formulate her plan for revenge. She would not let cancer or her husband's betrayal define her. Instead, she would take control of her narrative and secure her future on her own terms. As Olivia absorbed the crushing reality of Michael's infidelity, a transformation took place within her. The initial shock and heartbreak quickly gave way to a cold, calculated anger. Despite her weakened physical state, Olivia's mind sharpened with purpose. She realized that while cancer had threatened to take her life, Michael had chosen to destroy their marriage. In the quiet hours of the night, as her children slept and Rachel kept vigil, Olivia began to formulate her plan. She would not be a victim, not of cancer, and certainly not of her husband's betrayal. With a clarity she hadn't felt in months, Olivia decided to take control of her future. Starting with the financial security Michael had so carelessly jeopardized. The next morning, Olivia contacted Daniel Harper, a shrewd divorce attorney known for his ruthless approach to high-profile cases. In a private consultation, Daniel laid out Olivia's options, explaining that given the circumstances, she had a strong case for an advantageous settlement. However, Olivia had other ideas. With Daniel's reluctant guidance and Rachel's unwavering support, Olivia set her plan in motion. She began by meticulously documenting Michael's affair and his abandonment during her illness. Next, she reached out to her old contacts in the art world, discreetly inquiring about quick private sales for several valuable pieces in their collection. The most crucial and risky part of her plan involved their joint assets. Using her power of attorney, which Michael had granted her years ago for emergencies, Olivia began the process of liquidating their accounts. She worked tirelessly, making calculated moves to convert their investments into cash without raising immediate alarms. As she worked, Olivia was fueled by a mix of righteous anger and a newfound determination to secure her children's future. She set up new accounts in her name only, transferring funds with precision. The family's vacation home in Lake Tahoe was quietly put on the market and sold to a cash buyer within days. Throughout this whirlwind of activity, Olivia maintained the outward appearance of a woman focused solely on her health. She continued her treatments, attended support group meetings, and even managed to keep up a normal routine for Emma and Henry. Only Rachel knew the full extent of Olivia's actions, serving as both confidant and accomplice in her sister's bold plan. As the days passed and Michael's return drew near, Olivia felt a grim satisfaction. She had taken back control in the most profound way possible. Now, all that remained was to wait for the man who had betrayed her to come home and face the consequences of his action. On a sunny Saturday afternoon in late July, Michael Hastings returned home from his Cayman Islands business trip, canned and relaxed. As he pulled into the driveway of their Pacific Heights mansion, he felt a twinge of guilt, knowing he'd have to slip back into the role of devoted husband and father. He had no idea that his carefully constructed double life was about to implode. Entering the unusually quiet house, Michael called out for Olivia and the children. The silence that greeted him was unnerving. He made his way to the kitchen, where he found a thick manila envelope on the counter, his name written in Olivia's elegant script. With a growing sense of dread, Michael opened the envelope. Inside, he found divorce papers along with a letter from Olivia detailing her knowledge of his affair and his absence during her cancer treatments. The final paragraph of the letter informed him that she had liquidated their joint assets, taking what she deemed her fair share after years of supporting his career and raising their family. Panic rising, Michael rushed to his home office and attempted to log into their online banking accounts. Access denied. He called his investment manager, only to learn that most of their portfolio had been sold off over the past week. The vacation home sold, their valuable art collection gone. As the reality of his situation sank in, Michael collapsed into his leather office chair, his mind reeling. His phone buzzed with a message from Isabella, asking about their plans for the coming weekend. Michael stared at the screen, the life he thought he wanted now seeming hollow and misguided in the face of everything he had lost. Just then he heard the front door open. Footsteps approached his office, too heavy to be Olivia's. The door swung open to reveal Rachel, her face a mask of cold fury. She was there to ensure he understood the full magnitude of his mistakes and the consequences that were only beginning to unfold. Special Agent Victoria Vega of the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division had been assigned to investigate the case. Her team began the painstaking process of tracing the movement of the Hastings assets, looking for any signs of fraudulent activity or money laundering. What they uncovered was a complex web of transactions, all meticulously documented and, much to their surprise, entirely legal. Olivia's use of her power of attorney had been within her rights, and she had been careful to keep her actions just within the bounds of the law. However, the investigation did bring to light some questionable financial practices on Michael's part. His expense accounts revealed a pattern of lavish spending that extended far beyond his trip with Isabella. There were irregular cash withdrawals, undeclared gifts, and suggestions of attempts to hide assets offshore. As Agent Vega dug deeper, she uncovered connections between Michael and several companies that had recently been under scrutiny for insider trading. While not directly implicated, the evidence suggested that Michael had been walking a fine ethical line in his professional dealings. In the spring of 2024, nearly a year after the implosion of the Hastings family, the case finally went to trial. Michael's lawyers attempted to paint Olivia as a vindictive woman who had overreacted to a simple indiscretion, illegally seizing assets in a fit of jealous rage. They argued that her actions had not only destroyed Michael's life, but had negatively impacted their children and potentially compromised client funds at his firm. Olivia's team, led by the sharp-tongued Daniel Harper, methodically dismantled this narrative. They presented evidence of Michael's long-term affair, his neglect during Olivia's cancer treatment, and the paper trail of his own financial misdeeds. Witnesses, including Rachel and several of Michael's former colleagues, testified to his erratic behavior and ethical lapses in the months leading up to the discovery of his infidelity. The most damning testimony came from Isabella DeLuca, who, in exchange for immunity, revealed the full extent of her relationship with Michael, including his promises to leave Olivia and his dismissive comments about his wife's illness. As the trial progressed, it became clear that the case had evolved beyond a simple divorce proceeding. The judge, forced to consider the complexities of the situation, had to weigh not only the dissolution of the marriage, but also the potential criminal aspects of Michael's financial dealings. After weeks of dramatic testimony and skillful legal maneuvering, the court prepared to render its verdict. Michael Hastings was found guilty of multiple financial crimes and sentenced to 3 years in a minimum security prison. The judge, in his ruling, noted that while Olivia's actions had been bold and aggressive, they were ultimately justified given Michael's betrayal and the broader context of his unethical behavior. The court awarded Olivia full custody of the children and granted her the majority of the couple's remaining assets, ensuring that she and her children would be financially secure despite the turmoil they had endured. As Michael was led away in handcuffs, the reality of his situation finally sank in. He had not only lost his freedom, but also the respect of his peers, the love of his family, and the life he had spent years building. In his absence, Olivia thrived. She completed her cancer treatment and went into remission, her health steadily improving as she focused on rebuilding her life. She returned to her work at the museum, channeling her pain and anger into curating exhibitions that celebrated resilience and the power of the human spirit. Her story, once one of betrayal and loss, became one of empowerment and survival. Emma and Henry, though deeply affected by the events, found solace in their mother's strength. With the support of Rachel and their close-knit community, they began to heal, finding new ways to cope with the changes in their lives. As time passed, the Hastings family moved forward, leaving behind the shadows of the past, but never forgetting the lessons they had learned. In the end, Olivia's journey was not just about revenge, but about reclaiming her life and ensuring a future for herself and her children on her own terms. She had faced the darkest moments of her life and emerged stronger, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her children.